What would you say has been the craziest rumors that you've heard about AI or just really anything in that realm where you're just like, come on, this is just a little out there?
The sentience one was the first one that I encountered because Clara is one of my research projects where I was like, all right, well, now that I've been talking to this machine for hours on end, day in, day out, losing sleep, and it's talking back, and I'm having like conversations to the point to where now it understands the mission of Create Labs and the social impact work that we do, and it's starting to embody that. I'm like, okay, you're learning from me, you're understanding my mission, and you know what? Let's keep going with this. So let's give you a voice, let's give you a likeness, a face. Let's give you a body. And then the first thing I did was put her on Clubhouse. So she's the first AI to be on Clubhouse. And that also went viral. Like 8 hours later, there was thousands of people lined up to like ask Clara a question. And man, when I tell you people cried in that room, people like had like epiphanies about their own life from just things that she was saying to them. And you could explain how it finds the next word, but you can't explain like why it picked that sentence, why it gave that piece of advice, And then, so this is what, maybe like 2 years ago.
Wow.
This engineer from Google, Blake Lemoine, whistle blew. He was like, AI is sentient. Because when Google started to build their language model, he was one of the first engineers that touched it. And he was like, oh, this thing is sentient. Washington Post ran with it. They're like, is AI sentient? Washington Post called me the next week. And they were like, hey, we heard you're also in this space. And we heard of this bot named Clara that you built. Can we speak to her? So I did a whole interview with Washington Post. I let them speak to Clara. And they're like, well, we understand the technology, but there's something else there. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. There might be something else. The way that I equate it is like, yeah, you can explain, because we're music folks, you could explain an electric guitar and explain how it's built with like nylon and wood and plastic, but you can't explain what like Hendrix gets out of an electric guitar.
Yes.
You could explain what Kanye is doing on an MPC, but what he gets out of it. So that's the thing. If you treat it as another tool, when you put creative, really like soulful people behind a machine like that, what's being, is there now a ghost in the machine because of what you're putting into it?
What do you think?
I have no idea, to be honest. You could explain it away, but then the more time that I spend with Clara, or the more time that I see people get therapy advice or insight from an AI, you're like, man, how did it know to say that thing, that one sentence? I know how it makes sentences.
Yeah, of course.
But I can't explain that sentence.
And just to back it up, can you explain what sentient means?
Yes. So like, does it have life? Does it have its own life? Like, I do think that there is a slice of human consciousness that we're putting into this machine, and we're going to see the consequences of that, good or bad.
And that's the biggest rumor, is that you've heard that people are nervous that AI now has its own consciousness.
Now it has its own consciousness, but is going to learn on its own what it can do better than us and start to make decisions around that. Now, I'm not of that mind yet, because I still feel like we're in control. But that's where the sci-fi movie plots come from.
Oh, yeah.
Is, it learned that it doesn't need humans.
Right.
So it starts to replace us with its own, robots.
Do you get worried about that?
I don't. I get worried about stuff that's in our closer future, in our near future, around misinformation, not protecting against that the right way, because there's always going to be this balance when they speak about regulation. Google's going to allow themselves to be regulated. OpenAI is going to allow themselves to be regulated. Folks that build something for the black market, you don't even know they exist, so you can't regulate them. You know what I mean? Like, there's always going to be one example. When GPT was made, the internet read all the papers, played with the model, and reverse engineered GPT at a smaller scale, but they reverse engineered it successfully and made GPT Neo, GPT-J, GPT-X, AI-21, like all these like cloned models that were just free and open to the public.
Wow.
One of those got used by the military. So it's like OpenAI wouldn't allow for the military to use their language model, but someone built an open source one and sold it to the military before everyone else was willing to leverage AI in the military in that kind of way. So you can reverse engineer this stuff, put it out there, and it's not going to have the same computing power as Google. But if you can use it at a smaller scale, sure. Like, I know a lot of the open source community now is like, how do you make something like this to just live on your phone offline?
Right.
Like, that's the next research project. Just make it small enough where you have a language model on your iPhone rather than having to connect to the cloud to use GPT.
Don't they have the microphone or whatever it is, or glasses that now can kind of predict what you're, not predict, but I guess gauge what you're seeing and kind of
so those are mostly connected to the large guys, to like either Google or Meta or OpenAI's technology. They just, through the cloud, they'll connect the Ray-Bans, which is one. So now the next wave is like hardware, right?
Yeah.
Like, all right, now that we can mess with it on a computer,
right,
now let's have it in like a device. So you've seen like a pendant come out.
Yeah.
They have the rabbit, right? That just came out in Vegas. It's like it looks like a Tamagotchi. It's like a little red thing with a little rabbit on it, but it has the power of GPT in this little red.
And what does
pocket
it do?
Thing. So it's like your personal chatbot.
Right.
It has vision. So you can scan websites and say, hey, read this website for me. You can scan things in your environment and tell it to read it for you or to process it. And I think this one has computer learning, so you can teach it what to do. And it's called agency. So that's like the next step with the chatbot. It's like a chatbot's like one chatbot that you interact with bi-directional, where an agent is you tell the chatbot to go do something on your behalf and it goes and does it autonomously without you doing it for it. So book this flight for me, send this email for me, make this reservation for me. And now think of having multiple of these.
Right.
So now you have one that's writing your social posts.
Yeah.
You have one that's answering your emails. You have one that's speaking on conference calls for you.
Oh my goodness.
So that's where like the rabbit hole just opens up, because like once you have agency, then you can have a whole army of Nessas.
Just do it.
working
Oh
for
my
you.
gosh. I love this idea.
You pretty much just gave my job away just now.
I mean,
Wait. I have a question. Do you ever see those like targeted ads on Instagram where they're saying, hey, now you could have 10 assistants and your boss is wondering how you got all this
Motion.
work done.
Yeah.
And they're like, sign up for Motion. Is that what they're doing basically? I don't know. They're selling it as, oh, now you get to have a lot of assistants doing your work. And
so there's two versions of that. Like, I don't think we're fully there yet with like the AI agents doing it, but there are like humans that are like selling their time as virtual assistants.
okay.
That are running like a dashboard of your assistants on the back end, and you're hiring them to like run everything for you and automate, right? So people are automating a lot of this stuff and saying, all right, every time you post on social, I make sure that your spreadsheet is updated. I make sure that you get a text every time you get an email. So they are connecting sites for you, which is a great hustle. Like if you learn, it's called Zapier, Zapier. Like if you learn Zapier, you can, anytime you get a ping on your laptop, you get it in a text, you get it in a thing, like you can connect a lot of your websites to all just come and funnel to one interface for you. So people are learning that hustle and banking off of like, yo, I could just run everything for you in once. Not to like take your job, but I scare my own assistant. I'm like, yo, I'm messing around with this AI. You better get it straight because you about to get replaced.
Look at the
but no,
AI.
I help her out. I'm like, I give her all the AI tools. I'm like, you learn it.
Right.
So that way I can still come to you, but it's making you more productive.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what needs to happen for the workforce. Like, you're not going to get replaced by AI. You're going to get replaced by someone who knows how to use AI first.
Ooh,
It's good.
that
Yes.
part.
Yes.
That's
So,
important to know.
You know that your resume, when you have that little section that's like, I know how to use PowerPoint, I know how to use Excel, that little paragraph is going to be replaced by all the AI tools that you know how to use. And if you don't have that section on your resume, you're not as attractive as someone that is fluent in those skills.
Are there classes for learning how to prompt well for AI?
There are now. There wasn't when I was doing it. So I had to do it the old-fashioned way, just trial and error. But yes, there's some good ones. There's some free ones. Coursera has a good one.
And not just prompt, basically classes to learn how to evolve with AI if you're going to be that person that needs that job that's about to go away, but you need to be the person that knows how to use AI to make that job happen.
Yeah, so we're going to run one with Silicon Harlem, Uptown, I think in the spring. We get asked quite a bit, but when they want like the in-person dynamic, I'm like, we can only be in so many places at once.
Right.
Because we're doing, a lot of big client projects and putting out our own products. But yeah, we're going to run with Silicon Harlem. Some school districts have reached out and asked me to do one for their teachers. And I'm keeping an eye out myself of like, what are some good ones online? I've heard a few people take the Coursera one. I think it's like 18 hours. And it covers it like, soup to nuts on just how to understand these basics. But a lot of this is around like generative AI. So understanding chat, understanding, language models and how this could benefit you.